Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Welcome on board. If this is your first podcast, there are 60 more episodes to listen to, because this is the 61st episode of the Shipping Podcast, where you meet people with passion for the shipping industry. Today we're going to discuss connectivity at sea, more or less. It's about remote container management, a project that I think I heard something about a couple of years ago. And at that time, I think maybe that was the first time I thought about connectivity and maybe also ships could be connected to the rest of the world. I have been fortunate enough to hear about this project many times from Ericsson, but now we're going to hear about it from the ship owner's point of view, which I think is kind of cool. As you probably know by now, I went to Copenhagen late January to see as many of the Danish people as I could on my target list. And on January 25th, I had the pleasure of visiting the Maersk headquarters and sit down with Catja Hjorth Rasmussen. She is Head of Equipment Excellence at Maersk Line, and here is what she has got to say about remote container management. This is Catja Hjorth Rasmussen for you. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast.
Thank you.
Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Catja Hjorth Rasmussen, and I am Head of Equipment Excellence in Maersk Line.
How did you get into the shipping industry?
I joined fresh out of school as a shipping trainee, and I've been in love with the industry ever since. The fast-paced and changing environment is super exciting and has been what exactly has been holding me in the industry for so many years now. I took an international business education, and then I was very interested in staying in that international environment. So when I applied to become a shipping trainee, it was mainly driven by the fact that I wanted to be in an international company, in an international and fast-paced environment. And my limited knowledge about the shipping industry at that point in time were that was exactly that. So when I applied and I got it, then yes, not a lot of the other trainees came from a business school background. But I think the reason that I got it was because they could feel that I would add value with the business knowledge and again the passion, wanting to be in this international environment. Then I think having a business education as your foundation is a good start.
So how long was the traineeship for?
That was 2 years.
And what did you do during that time?
During that time, I actually worked with both air freight and sea freight. It was for DSV back then, and as a freight forwarder, we were dealing with both air and sea freight. And after that, I then went to the other side of the table for one of our customers to see how it would be sitting on that side of the table. And here I worked much more with logistics and supply chain management. And then I joined Maersk Line. So I feel like I've closed the loop now, being both with the freight forwarders, the customer side, and now with the shipping line. And I definitely enjoy being with the shipping line, because I really feel that working for Maersk Line Transport and Logistics gives me a really, really good opportunity for being part of shaping the industry.
So what do you do in your everyday job?
As Head of Equipment Excellence, I am overall responsible for all maintenance and repairs for our container fleet, dry and refrigerated containers. One of our key focus areas is to ensure that we get the right quality to the right price with both internal and external vendors when it comes to maintaining our equipment, in order to ensure that our customers get a satisfactory experience when it comes to our equipment and our fleet. Besides that, we are also looking at innovation and how we can improve quality through innovation. So another key area of my responsibility is what we call remote container management. It started as a project 5 years ago, where Maersk Line wanted to explore what it would require if we wanted to know everything the reefer knows. And that triggered a huge project in a strong partnership with both Ericsson and AT&T. It took 3 years to develop the solution, both software and hardware-wise. And before we had a device installed on every single refrigerated container in our fleet, 5 years had passed. And what is interesting about this technology is that in reality it's quite simple. It's what you would expect. A lot of industries already using. You have a GSM modem that connects via normal GSM connectivity on land and through satellite when crossing the sea. But what makes it complicated is that in order to reach the satellite while crossing the sea, you need external and additional equipment on board the vessels. And that was what added a huge complexity to the solution. Because while you get a GSM signal on your mobile phone, regardless of where you walk, you don't get it when you cross the Atlantic. So we started installing satellite equipment on board of our vessels in order to ensure that we could capture the signals from the containers and then transmit it up in the sky to the signal and then back into our back-end systems. And that was, that took 5 years. So it was basically run as a project until 2015. And then it was decided to close it down as a project and to integrate it into the organization. So since August 2015, we have in my team been focusing on ensuring a smooth transition from having been a large R&D and innovational project into becoming a part of the standing organization and actually trying to figure out how we can use the technology to optimize some of our processes.
So can I have a stupid question then? Is this instrument on board the ships installed on every container ship, or is it specific container ships that is carrying the reefer containers?
Yeah, that's not a stupid question at all. That's a good question. And we have, actually it's part of the standard equipment on board all of Maersk Line owned vessels. And then we also install on our long-term charters. So right now we have roughly 300 owned vessels and 130 long-term charter vessels where we have this technology installed on board. And of course, we aim at having all of our heavy reefer trades covered with this technology.
So you said it's simple. Yeah, it's always simple. Once you see it, it's like the iPhone. That is simple now, but you couldn't imagine that 11 years ago before we saw it.
No, and when I say it's simple, it's the main concept that is simple. You know, you install a device that is similar to your cell phone. It has two-way communication. It's installed directly into the brain of the reefer, into the controller. And then it just captures the signal that is anyway there, and then it transmits. So in reality, the concept is simple. But what added complexity to it was the fact that we had to install it on nearly 300,000 refrigerated containers in order to get the full benefit out of the product. Because if you connect two devices to something, you get data and you can optimize processes around those two units alone. But if you install on your entire fleet, you get a global product and you can look at it from a more holistic global view. So the installation phase alone took 3 years from start to end. In the beginning, they installed between 5,000 to 7,000 modems on the refrigerated containers per week. But in the end, they had to capture the last ones. So it was down to 5 per week because you can't just take 300 containers out of the fleet in order to do an installation.
No, of course not. So what is it used for, the monitoring of the containers?
So since we completed the project and we decided to implement it as part of the daily business, we have been focusing on two core areas. One of the areas is monitoring, because we now have real-time visibility of our containers or of our reefer containers everywhere at any time. We can also advise our terminal operators and vendors when an action is needed. So instead of our local guys in the front line and our terminal operators having to constantly monitor our reefers in order to ensure that we provide a premium cargo care, we can rely on the technology. So that means if you are a terminal operator and you receive 1,000 containers from a vessel, you can concentrate on the reefers that need your full attention and rely on the technology. Go into the system, look up if there are any alarms. If there are alarms, you go to the ones that need your attention. And that means you can optimize the way you work and you can ensure that you utilize your capabilities in the right areas where needed. And we can provide a better cargo care to our customers.
So what does your customers say about this? I mean, I understand that it's like, that is products, that is fruit or flowers or things like that.
Yes.
That is where you need a constant temperature. Or...
Yes, yeah. So we decided to keep this internal for the first good year in order to ensure that we could really learn what the data could bring us and that we could improve some of our operational processes in-house before launching to the customers. But in the third quarter 2016, we have come so far that it was actually decided by senior management that they are ready to launch this as a commercial solution. So right now we are working on creating a product that will benefit our customers as well. But we have had some feedback from some customers that we have opened up for the system, we have shown them what we have, and they are all very excited, especially about the part that we can now monitor the cargo real time, because that enables them to really optimize their own supply chain. And that's really what it's all about when you talk about digitalization and innovation, getting that full end-to-end transparency, both from a shipping line point of view, but also from a customer perspective. If you know exactly how your cargo is doing at any point in time, there are some good opportunities for you as a customer to optimize.
You have now installed this on the reefer containers. I can only start thinking about if you install it on every container, because you carry a lot of containers.
Yes.
To track the containers, I mean, that is what the industry or what especially the supply chain is asking for. They want to know, where is my cargo?
Yes, I fully agree that the live container tracking of all kinds, both dry and reefer, is definitely the way forward. Right now we have been focusing on the reefer because it turned out to be extremely complex, and just thinking about having to install devices on 2.4 million dry containers compared to 300,000 reefers, that's a big task. But there's no doubt about it, it's definitely the way forward.
Well, you got some work cut out there for you.
Yes, that's for sure.
So now when you have all this data, so you do a lot of data monitoring. So what do you see? I mean, what is your biggest insight when you see the data?
One of the key processes that we have actually used the data to optimize is what we call a pre-trip inspection. Every reefer goes through a pre-trip inspection before it's delivered empty to a customer.
The container?
The container,
yeah.
Yes. So in order to ensure that the container is in a good condition before it leaves the premises and goes to the customer, it goes through a pre-trip inspection. A pre-trip inspection is an inspection that can take up to 6 hours, because in some cases you need to cool the container all the way down in order to ensure that the functionalities are in a proper working condition. But by using the data, especially the last 3 weeks data points of the container journey, we have created an algorithm that can calculate the predicted state of the container upon arrival. And that means we can use the data to segregate containers into a red or a green status. If a container is red, it goes through the full pre-trip inspection. The abbreviations, they come they come as part of the work. So they go through a full pre-trip inspection. But if it's green, we can take it through a visual inspection. That means that we do the first 15 steps of a normal pre-trip inspection, and of course, these checks are still carried out by a person that inspects the container. But because all the data shows that all machinery is working and functioning in the container, there's only a need for visual inspection. And in 2016, we were actually able to do these visual inspections instead of full pre-trip inspections of 65% of all of our empty export containers. Of course, there's an operational cost savings linked to this, but the main benefit that we see is a faster turn time of our equipment, and that means that we will also be able to deliver the equipment faster to our customers when needed. So there are some good benefits in this, and then one of the side benefits as well is that since we don't have to cool the container all the way down, we also save on the power and thereby on the carbon footprint.
Yeah, everything counts.
Everything counts, and this is just one of the things that we can get out of the data. But I will be honest and say that there is so much more we can do when it comes to the data part. We've been receiving data every day for the last 2 years now as part of operations, and I feel that we can become smarter every day. One of the key challenges is to really learn how to handle all this data and manage all this data. And that's why I'm extremely happy with the strategy that our senior management have chosen in order to focus more on digitalization, because we now have an advanced analytics team that are looking at all the data that we have in-house to identify patterns in order to find new ways of optimizing and improving the customer experience, but also the operational effectiveness in the front line.
It's exciting.
It is.
So how do you see the future for shipping in general?
I definitely think that digitalization is the way forward. And I have to say, when I just think back 5 years of where we were when we started remote container management, I think the next 5 years will bring even more, and we will evolve even faster. Because we see a shift in the industry now. We talk about connected containers, connected vessels, connected ports, and I don't think that we are far away from having a full connected supply chain where the industry can talk together. And I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, so do I. And that is what I understand, the demands from the rest of the supply chain.
Yes.
And why should we be not as good as the rest of the supply chain?
I agree. And I think one of the challenges the shipping industry have had is that we are a little bit conservative. Or we have been a little bit conservative, right? And I think that's because when you want to implement something, it takes time and it's complex because you're dealing with large ships, you're dealing with large containers, and you don't just install a tracking device on your suitcase before you put it in to an airplane that already is connected to the internet, right?
No, and it's also a lot of investment.
Exactly. Every time you have to do something, it takes time and it takes capital. And I think that has been the challenge so far. But I'm extremely happy that we see the industry moving in that direction because it is the way forward. We can't continue to compete with the other industries if we don't start to become connected.
On that note, on the shift, what do you think about being a woman in a male-dominated world? How do you find that?
I think it's a good challenge. Yes, it's a male-dominant world, but I also believe that we see more females in the industry now, and we see stronger females in the industry now, also as spokespersons and in leader roles. And of course, I like that development. I myself have no problems working in this kind of environment. I think that's the name of the game. But yes, you probably have to have a specific mindset in order to at least be in the hardcore operational part of the shipping business when you are female.
Yeah, I agree. But also I think the change that we're seeing now, it's both the digitalization,
yes,
the fourth industry revolution, and also we have a generation shift.
Yes.
And the technical shift, which I think we will need new skills into our industry. And then maybe the skills that was always wanted before could be a little bit different now. So my theory is that then it won't be a gender issue.
No.
Because up until recently, most people that were recruited would have had been to sea.
Yes.
And there are not a lot of women at sea on vessels. So if you only choose from people who has been at sea, then you won't get many women at the management level either.
No, I think you're absolutely right in that. And I think there's a strong link between the shift we see in digitalization and connecting the industry and then females. Because when you want to focus on digitalization, you need different mindsets. And there's a lot of females out there who also have studied data science and enjoys doing advanced analytics. But as long as we get them in and we still maintain the good seafarer skills that is also still needed, then I think we're striking a really, really good and strong balance in the industry. And we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Yes, I agree with you. So we are often looked upon as the Cinderella industry. No one knows about us. We are invisible.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas on how we could become more visible?
I think speaking about some of the new initiatives and ideas that we are working on is the way to do it. There is, as you rightfully say, there has been a tendency to work on these huge projects in secret. And then once it's ready, you go out and you start talking about it and promote it. But I think it's extremely important to start sharing the ideas sooner. Because we will see in the industry that if we are working on it in Maersk Transport and Logistics, then most likely some of our other larger companies or some of the other larger companies in the industry are also thinking along those lanes. And there might be some synergies that can be explored. So I think the way forward is to be open earlier.
Yeah, and there could be a potential client that is sitting with a problem or thinking about something that could solve something that could be the last piece of puzzle in your innovation.
Yes, I agree. But I also think that because of the change that we see in the industry, it's also easier now to be open, because who knows, it might be that we will be dependent of an industry standard at some point in time.
Yeah.
And speaking about digitalization and innovation in general, that is a topic that we should talk openly about, because as a shipping planner company, we are experts in shipping. We are not experts in data and digitalization yet. So if we want to become experts, we also need to be open to input from others.
Yeah, and also I think if you look upon other industries, how they do innovation, it's not like in the old days, but we are still in the old days sort of thinking that we need to do this in-house. We need to do the innovation and the technical development in-house. But knowledge sharing and look at the Apple or Google's, they are not doing this in-house.
No.
They are asking the world for the solutions.
Yes.
And I think that is the way we need to move on to.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my view.
No, I fully agree. Being more open and dare to share and to ask.
Yeah. Did you have a role model growing up?
Not in the shipping industry, I would say. But no, not really. Besides my mom and dad.
Yes, mom and dad.
Yeah, but then no, not really.
Because you will become a role model, you like it or not. Because when you are visible in the industry and you are a woman, other women will see that you are there and you will be a role model to others. So that is why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I feel a responsibility to be a role model myself.
Yeah.
Because I've reached a certain age and people talk to me or talk about me and listen to me.
Yeah.
And then I think it's important, how do people become role models?
Yeah. I think for me, it's all about having passion for what you do. Because if you have a passion and you let that shine through in your results, it will take you a long way. And of course, you need humbleness as you go along. That will get you far. That's my principle. That's my value. Have passion for what I do and be humble about it.
Who would you be interested in listening to? Who do you think I should meet the next time?
I think it could be interesting to hear from other female leaders. I noticed that you have many female, nearly 50%,
almost
right?
50%.
Yeah. And I find that extremely interesting because I think it's important to get their view on also the change in the industry. And then I think it could be interesting also to hear from some of the suppliers, some of the players in the digitalization field when it comes to the shipping industry. How do they see their impact to the industry? What can they do for the shipping industry in order to be part of the journey when it comes to innovation and digitalization?
Okay, I have some connections there. I'll try.
Good.
Thank you, Catja. And thank you, Mikkel Elbeck-Linnet, press officer at Maersk Line. I really enjoyed my visit to you, and thank you for helping me out. Once you start to think about all the other things that could follow from this project, I feel that there is no limit of what we can achieve. It is probably only our own imagination that is holding us back. There are more guests interviewed on this theme later on this summer. You will hear more about other types of services that could be used when the shipping industry is all connected. As I have told you, I have participated in a podcasting community with 20 more ladies during the month of May. We have been guided and coached by the one and only Elsie Escobar. If you know anything about podcasting, you know who I am talking about. So all these different sessions and interactions with other people have set a few thoughts in my head. I have been given feedback, both from Elsie and from others. And all of a sudden, I see myself through others. And that has been an eye-opener for me. I understand now that you might see me as someone who is trying to move things forward. That is definitely not something that I set out to do. I'm just a very curious person by nature, but I can see your point. Maybe I am. I realize, looking back, that I'm pointing at some really hardcore questions in the industry, looking for the types of conversations that I want us to have in our industry, and that I am pushing boundaries. As I said, this is not what I set out to do, but this is what it has become. I set out to reach out to people outside the shipping industry and talk about our interesting and cool and developing industry that we are in. But I realize when I look at the downloads that maybe more people within the shipping industry are listening. I get a lot of feedback from young people who says that they get the overview picture of the entire industry listening to the podcast. Just the other day, someone said, I struck gold when I found your podcast because I am an entrepreneur and I want to get into the shipping industry. Well, what do you want more of? Who do you want to listen to in the future? Right now, I've got 10 interviews in pipeline, so my request to you will not have any impact until October. But since I am reviewing what I'm doing right now and how I can take this to the next level, now is your chance to influence me. You can call me out in social channels or you can email me at hello@shippingpodcast.com. I'm really interested in what you think. Speaking about influence and speaking about you, my 2 years anniversary is rapidly approaching. It's the end of July. I would love to have your voices in my anniversary episode because I have to do one. I realize that. So if you could download the app called Voxer, that is Voxer, Voxer, find me, my name is Lena Gothberg, and send me a voice message. I will try and edit and put it into my episode. Give me your thoughts about my podcast and what I'm doing here. That would be so much fun to listen to what you think. Usually I'm just talking into a black hole. I realize that maybe I'm not doing that, but it feels like it from time to time. I know I shouldn't be asking you to do more things, because what they teach you is that you can have one call to action in each episode. Otherwise, people get confused. But since you are shipping people and you are used to having more than one things at the top of your mind, I would like to say that if you're active on Instagram, go to the Shipping Podcast and have a look at what I'm doing there. I'm trying to get the Insta stories going as well. It's fun, but it's a bit tricky, I think. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm too old, I don't know. But I think this tool, the Insta Stories, is the one of the social media tools that I have had to practice with before putting it into action. So please let me know what you think. Follow me and I will follow back. I want to see the maritime world out there in the social channels. Before I go, I have one bad conscience. It's the newsletter. I haven't produced a newsletter since early this year. I know that is bad. I shouldn't be setting up tools and not use them. But can I blame the flood of news that is happening in this project all the time, constantly? I will take the time, I promise you, who have subscribed on the website. While you are thinking about what guests you want to listen to, you can also add what you want to read about in the newsletter. Otherwise, it will be all about me, all about the podcast, and that might be why I'm hesitant to write something. Okay, more Danish wonderful guests to come, but for now, I will say, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.